The cowboy waited for his mail-order bride, but an armed outlaw woman took her place. The twin suns of Red Mesa hung low in the dusty sky, painting the planet's rugged canyons and copper-colored plains in long streaks of gold and red. Jace Calhoun leaned against the wooden railing of his small landing pad, squinting at the horizon. The wind carried the scent of metal and dry sand, a combination he had grown to recognize as home. His ranch wasn't large by Earth standards, but out here on the frontier, it was enough. Enough for survival. Enough for hope. Today, however, hope came with a flutter of nerves. A starship from Earth had been scheduled to arrive, carrying the woman he had ordered as a mail-order bride. For weeks, Jace had imagined her, gentle, polite, perhaps shy, with a quiet smile that could ease the loneliness of life on a remote planet. He had counted the days, watched the sun set behind the red mesas, and wondered how she would react to the harshness of the frontier. As the twin suns dipped lower, a glimmer appeared on the horizon. The ship descended slowly, its metal hull reflecting the colors of the sunset. The engine's hum was softer than the wind, but filled Jace with anticipation. He adjusted his hat and straightened his posture. Today, his life might change. The landing ramp lowered, and a figure stepped forward. Jace's heart skipped a beat, not from excitement, but from confusion. The woman was nothing like he had pictured. Her hair was tied back in a practical braid, her clothes were rugged and worn, and a bandolier crossed her chest, holding strange tools and devices. She carried herself with a confidence that seemed to challenge the world itself. Most surprising of all, she held a small handheld blaster, not in a threatening way, but ready, as if she expected trouble. Jace swallowed hard. You must be my bride, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman smiled, but it was not a shy smile. It was sharp, clever, and carried a hint of mischief. That depends on who you asked, she replied, her voice steady, tinged with amusement. Before Jace could respond, a customs agent arrived, floating slightly above the ground in a small anti-grav suit. Jace Calhoun? The agent said, scanning his ID. There's been a mistake. Your intended passenger's manifest was tampered with. The woman who arrived is... He paused, choosing his words carefully. A known outlaw, wanted in several sectors. Outlaw? Yes, the agent said. She is clever and dangerous, but reports say she avoids harming anyone. Still, we cannot ignore her presence. The woman tilted her head and gave Jace a quick, assessing glance. Heard that? She said. Name's Vera Kincaid. And don't worry, I'm not here to cause trouble for him, she said, pointing at Jace. Not yet, anyway. His quiet life of tending robotic irrigation pumps, feeding solar cattle, and maintaining the homestead had never prepared him for this. And yet there was something about Vera's confidence that made him feel both uneasy and intrigued. Why are you here then? He asked. Vera shrugged. I had some trouble with people who chase me for reasons I'd rather not explain. I figured, why not hide out somewhere nobody comes looking? Your ranch seemed perfect. Quiet. Remote. Safe. Jace's mind raced. Safe? A wanted outlaw was safe on his ranch? And what about the woman he had actually ordered? The bride he had imagined for so long? He glanced up at the sky, wondering if the starship from Earth carrying her would arrive soon. Look, Vera said, sensing his confusion. I know things. Machines, tracking devices, ways to make this place work better. If you let me, I'll make myself useful, and I promise I'll cause as little trouble as possible. Jace studied her carefully. Something in her eyes, determination, intelligence, a spark of mischief, made him hesitate. He could turn her in, report her to the planetary authorities, and wait for the real bride. Or he could take a risk. Out here, life was never easy, and maybe a little chaos wasn't the worst thing to invite. All right, he said slowly. You can stay for now, but you follow my rules. Vera grinned. Rules? I like rules. Makes breaking them more fun. Jace shook his head, a small laugh escaping him despite his nerves. He wasn't sure if he had made a mistake or the best decision of his life. The first evening on Red Mesa passed in quiet tension. Vera explored the small ranch, examining the solar panels and robotic cattle systems with interest. She asked questions, took notes, and occasionally muttered to herself about ways to improve things. Jace watched her from the porch, a strange mixture of admiration and caution growing in his chest. Night fell quickly, and the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the desert. Stars sparkled above, clearer than anywhere on Earth. Jace felt the familiar pull of the frontier, the vast empty space that promised both isolation and freedom. He realized that this life, this planet, had changed him. And now, with Vera's unexpected arrival, it was about to change again. The next morning, Vera was already at work. She had set up small devices near the irrigation systems and was scanning the robotic cattle's tracking chips. Jace approached cautiously. "Need any help?" he asked. Vera looked up, her eyes sharp and focused. "Depends. You're handy with machines, right?" "Good," she replied, "because we have a lot of work if we want this ranch to survive the next dust storm." Jace nodded, realizing she was not just bold. She was practical, clever, and perhaps the most resourceful person he had ever met. Despite her outlaw status, she could be an asset. Over the next few days, Vera and Jace worked together, repairing broken irrigation pumps, recalibrating sensors, and rerouting power from solar panels damaged in recent sandstorms. She joked often, teasing him gently about his slow methods and old-fashioned tools. Jace, in turn, found himself laughing more than he had in months, surprised by how natural her presence felt. Still, the thought of the real bride lingered in his mind. When the settlers spoke of the incoming ship, Jace felt a flicker of anxiety. Would the real bride be angry, scared, or confused? Could he face her, knowing Vera was already here, already helping him, already present in his life? Vera seemed to notice his worry. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the horizon, she said quietly, "Don't worry about her. If she comes, we'll handle it. But right now we have more important things, like surviving Red Mesa." Jace nodded, understanding her point, but still uneasy. There was something about Vera that made him feel alive, excited and slightly terrified all at once. He had come to Red Mesa seeking solitude, but perhaps the universe had other plans. Days passed, and news of Vera's presence spread through the settlement. Some settlers were wary, whispering about the outlaw living among them. Others were curious, intrigued by her confidence and skills. Jace noticed the way she moved through the town, commanding attention without trying, earning respect without demanding it. For the first time, he began to wonder if life on Red Mesa could be more than survival. Maybe it could be adventure. Maybe it could even be something like friendship, or more. One afternoon, a small comm device beeped urgently. Jace picked it up and listened as the planetary customs agent's voice crackled through. "Jace Calhoun, we have confirmation. The ship carrying your intended passenger is en route. Estimated arrival, 3 solar days." Jace's heart sank and raced at the same time. The real bride was coming. His orderly life was about to collide with the unexpected chaos that Vera had brought. He looked over at Vera, who was tinkering with a drone near the barn. She looked up, catching his gaze, and winked. 3 days, huh?" she said. "Guess we'd better make them count." Jace laughed, a mixture of nerves and excitement. He realized that Red Mesa had never been quiet, not really. And now, with an outlaw woman by his side, it might never be quiet again. The sun set, painting the sky in fire and gold, and Jace felt a strange sense of anticipation. The frontier had always been unpredictable, but this time it was more than storms or sandworms. It was the arrival of a life that could change everything. For the first time in a long while, Jace wasn't sure what the future held, and somehow that uncertainty felt right. The morning sun stretched across Red Mesa, turning the horizon into a band of gold and orange. Jace Calhoun stood on the porch of his small ranch house, sipping a cup of hot, recycled coffee. The winds had shifted overnight, carrying the familiar scent of dust and dry nettle. It was a new day, and with it, new challenges. Vera Kincaid was already moving about the ranch. Her boots kicked up small clouds of red dust as she inspected the robotic cattle grazing near the edge of the property. Each mechanical animal was designed to withstand the harsh climate, but something about their movement today seemed off. Vera crouched next to one of the trackers, tapping on a screen embedded in the device. "Power levels are fluctuating," she muttered. Someone didn't maintain these properly, or maybe a sandstorm scrambled the circuits. Either way, we've got work. Jace joined her, squinting at the gadgets she had brought from her ship. He had been cautious at first, unsure of her skills, but she already showed a level of expertise he had never seen. "You know how to fix this?" he asked. "Of course," Vera said, flashing a grin. "But you have to let me do it my way." Out here, on the edge of the galaxy, flexibility wasn't just a choice, it was survival. As they worked side by side, Jace noticed that Vera had a rhythm to her movements, precise and efficient. She didn't rush, yet she got more done in an hour than he could in a day. Slowly, he began to understand why she had earned the reputation of being clever and resourceful. By midday, the robotic cattle were moving smoothly again. Vera wiped the sweat from her brow and looked around at the ranch. Not bad, she said. But these irrigation pumps could use some upgrades. And your energy grid, well, let's just say it's fragile. Jace sighed. It's been holding up so far. Barely, Vera said, tapping a small tablet she carried. If we don't fix this before the next dust storm, half your crops will fail. He had been managing just barely, and the thought of a failing harvest worried him, but Vera's confidence gave him hope. Maybe together they could actually improve the ranch instead of just keeping it alive? The work continued for the next few days. Vera taught Jace how to recalibrate the sensors on the irrigation pumps, how to adjust the solar panels to capture more energy from the twin suns, and even how to tweak the robotic cattle's programming so they would herd themselves more efficiently. At first, Jace had been hesitant, unsure of how much control to give her, but with each passing day, he realized that her knowledge wasn't just useful, it was vital. And though he would never admit it aloud, her presence made the ranch feel more alive. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Red Mesa, Jace and Vera sat on the porch. The wind was calm, and the horizon glowed with silver light. "You know," Jace said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I didn't expect to be working with a wanted outlaw when I ordered a bride. Life's full of surprises, Cowboy. You can either complain about them or make the best of them. I vote for the second option." Jace chuckled, shaking his head. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," she admitted, "but easier than sitting around worrying about things you can't control." One of the old irrigation pumps had completely stopped working. Without water, half the crops would die, and Jace realized he couldn't fix it alone. Vera, however, had a plan. "We need to get it working again before the sun rises too high," she said. "It'll require climbing into the pump's core and rerouting some of the energy from the solar array. Lucky for you, I have the tools for that." Jace watched as she moved with agility, carefully adjusting circuits and checking connections. He handed her tools when she asked and followed instructions closely. By late morning, the pump whirred to life again, water flowing smoothly into the fields. "See?" Vera said, smiling. "Nothing to it." "Nothing for you," Jace muttered, half in admiration, half in frustration. He knew he could never work this fast alone. Over the next few days, Vera began teaching Jace how to anticipate problems before they happened. Sandstorms, power fluctuations, mechanical failures. She had a way of thinking ahead, planning for things most settlers would only notice after disaster struck. "I call it frontier foresight," she said one afternoon, checking the energy grid. "You need to know the land, the machines, and the weather. Then, when trouble comes, and it always comes, you're ready." He had survived Red Mesa for years, relying on hard work and routine, but Vera's methods were different. Faster, smarter. He began to appreciate her, not just as a worker, but as a partner. As they worked together, Jace noticed small things about Vera that made her human, beyond the reputation of outlaw and troublemaker. She laughed easily, told stories of distant planets she had visited, and occasionally paused to stare at the horizon as if remembering someone she had lost. One afternoon, as they repaired a hover drone used to scout the land, Jace asked, "Why did you really come here? Was it just to hide?" Vera hesitated, then said, "Partly. But also maybe I wanted to see if someone like you could handle me. Most people can't. They panic or fight me. You didn't. You let me work alongside you, even when I was an outsider. That counts for something." Jace felt a strange warmth in his chest. He didn't know how to respond. "I guess I don't like being helpless," he said finally. "And you're the opposite of helpless?" Vera smiled, a soft, rare smile that made Jace forget about the harshness of Red Mesa for a moment. "Good answer," she said. Their partnership continued, and the ranch began to thrive. The robotic cattle were efficient, the crops grew stronger, and the solar panels captured enough energy to power the homestead and the irrigation system. Settlers who had been skeptical of Vera began to notice the improvements. Some even asked for her help with their own systems, intrigued by the unusual combination of her knowledge and Jace's understanding of the land. Yet, despite their successes, a tension lingered. The real bride ship was still en route. Jace knew that when she arrived, everything might change, and Vera, though confident, seemed aware of the same truth. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise, Jace said, 3 days left. She'll be here soon."
Vera nodded.
"And when she comes, we handle it together. No drama, no trouble." "Easier said than done," Jace muttered. "Trust me," Vera replied, her eyes glinting. "I've handled worse." The following morning, Vera suggested a new project. building a small wind collector to supplement the solar panels during dust storms. Jace agreed, eager to learn from her experience. As they worked, their conversation drifted to lighter topics, favorite planets, memories of Earth, and dreams of exploring new frontiers. Despite the looming arrival of the real bride, a sense of camaraderie grew between them. They were partners in every sense, combining skill, intelligence, and determination to survive and thrive on Red Mesa. And slowly, Jace realized that this partnership was changing him. He was no longer just a lonely rancher. He was part of a team with someone he could rely on, someone who challenged him, and someone who made life unexpectedly exciting. By the end of the day, the wind collector was built, the solar panels recalibrated, and the robotic cattle programmed to return to their pens automatically. Vera wiped her hands on a rag, smiling. "Not bad for two strangers," she said. Jace laughed, feeling a rare lightness in his chest. "Maybe not strangers for long," he said. Vera raised an eyebrow, her grin widening. "We'll see, Cowboy, we'll see." As the twin moons rose again, casting silver light across the desert, Jace felt a sense of hope he hadn't felt in years. Life on Red Mesa was unpredictable, yes. Dangerous, maybe. But with Vera's help, it was becoming something more than survival. It was becoming adventure. And for the first time, he felt ready for whatever the frontier had in store. 3 days remained before the real bride arrived. Jace didn't know what would happen when she came. But for now, he was content to focus on the present, repairing, building, learning, and discovering that an outlaw woman could be more than a problem. She could be a partner. And as the twin sun set behind the mesas, Jace realized that the ranch, once quiet and lonely, was now alive with possibility. The morning sun rose over Red Mesa, spilling warm gold across the dusty plains. Jace Calhoun stood near the edge of his ranch, watching Vera Kincaid work on a new energy panel. Her hands moved quickly, precise and confident, adjusting wires and tuning circuits. Even after days of working together, he was still amazed at her skill. Suddenly, a distant shimmer appeared on the horizon. At first, Jace thought it was a mirage created by the heat of the twin suns, but the shimmer grew, and he realized it was a starship approaching. His heart skipped a beat. "The real bride's ship," he whispered to himself. Vera glanced up and followed his gaze. Her expression was unreadable for a moment. Then she gave a small, tight smile. "Looks like our time is up," she said. Jace swallowed hard. The past few days had been different. He had worked with Vera, laughed with her, learned from her. But now, the woman he had originally ordered, the one who was supposed to be his bride, was arriving. And suddenly, the future felt uncertain. The starship landed with a soft hum, and the ramp lowered. A young woman stepped out, her eyes wide with curiosity and nervousness. She wore a flowing dress, delicate and formal, clearly unprepared for the harsh desert wind. She looked around, taking in the rugged ranch, the robotic cattle, and the figure of Vera standing nearby. Jace's stomach twisted. This was the moment he had imagined countless times, but not like this. Vera stepped forward first, giving the new arrival a polite nod. "Welcome to Red Mesa," she said. "I'm helping your intended groom for now." The bride blinked, clearly confused. "Helping? I don't understand." Jace stepped closer, clearing his throat. This is Vera Kincaid. She arrived first by mistake. I've been letting her help with the ranch." The young woman's eyes widened. "A mistake?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You mean she's not me?" Vera smiled gently. "No. And I promise I haven't caused any trouble. The ranch is safe, and we've been working hard to make things better." Jace felt the tension rise. He knew the arrival of the real bride would create questions, confusion, maybe even resentment. But he also knew one thing. He didn't want conflict. Not here. Not on Red Mesa. Over the next few hours, the three of them worked to settle the situation. Vera showed the bride around the ranch, pointing out improvements and explaining the changes they had made. The bride, though cautious, seemed genuinely interested. She asked questions, touched the robotic cattle, and even offered ideas for organizing the irrigation system. He realized that the real bride was kind and polite, but she lacked the practical skills that Vera had brought to the ranch. And Vera, despite her reputation as an outlaw, handled the situation with grace and intelligence. By midday, the trio took a break. They sat on the porch, the twin suns high in the sky, casting sharp shadows across the desert. "I never expected this," Jace said quietly to Vera. "Neither did I," Vera replied. "But it's not about expectations. It's about what we do now. The bride nodded, looking at both of them. I want to help, she said. I don't want to just stand by while the ranch thrives. I want to learn. Then you'll have to work hard. Red Mesa isn't easy. The bride tried her hand at simple tasks, adjusting sensors, feeding the robotic cattle, and monitoring water flow. Vera guided her, giving instructions patiently and correcting mistakes without judgment. Jace noticed something remarkable. Vera had a way of teaching that was gentle but firm, encouraging growth without making anyone feel small. That evening, a distant alarm beeped from Vera's portable device. She checked it quickly, frowning. Someone is tracking me, she said, her voice low. Not here yet, but close. Tracking you? Who? Pursuers? Vera said. People who want me caught for reasons that don't involve harming anyone. I can hide, but I need help keeping them off the ranch. The bride looked at Vera, fear in her eyes. Should we call the authorities? Vera shook her head. If we do, they'll find me immediately. No, we have to be smart. We'll mislead them. Use the land, the tech, and the weather to our advantage. Jace nodded. He wasn't sure what she had in mind, but he trusted her judgment. She had already proven herself capable of thinking ahead, planning for situations he never could have anticipated. For the next day, Vera instructed Jace and the bride in clever strategies. They set up decoy signals from the ranch's drones, redirected energy from the solar panels to scramble tracking devices, and even used Red Mesa's magnetic storms to cover their movements. The bride watched in awe, learning quickly and absorbing everything Vera taught. By nightfall, Vera looked over the ranch and nodded. They'll be confused for a while. No one will find me tonight. Jace exhaled in relief. You make it sound easy. Vera smiled, a rare softness in her expression. It isn't easy, but with teamwork it works. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the desert, Jace realized how unusual this situation had become. The ranch, once quiet and lonely, was now alive with 3 people, each bringing something different to the table. There was skill, there was curiosity, and there was experience, and somehow together they were stronger than any one of them alone. The next morning brought new challenges. The magnetic storm had passed, but debris from the wind had clogged some irrigation lines. The robotic cattle were scattered across the field, their circuits slightly scrambled. Jace, Vera, and the bride worked together to fix everything, coordinating their actions with precision. During a brief pause, the bride asked Vera, "Why did you really come here? You could have gone anywhere in the galaxy." Vera looked at the horizon, thoughtful. I needed a place where I could be useful, where I could survive without causing trouble. And maybe I wanted to see if someone could accept me, even knowing who I am. The bride nodded slowly. I see. And Jace? Jace smiled faintly. I see that life is unpredictable, that sometimes the people you least expect can become your greatest allies. Vera's precautions had worked, and the real bride adjusted to life on Red Mesa, learning the ranch and its systems. Jace noticed a change in her. She was no longer nervous or uncertain. She was adapting, slowly gaining confidence in her own abilities. Vera, for her part, continued to teach and guide, never losing her spark of wit and cleverness. The 3 of them became a team, each contributing in their own way. Jace realized that the ranch was not just a place of work, it was a place of learning, growth, and unexpected friendship. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise again, Vera said, Red Mesa is full of surprises. Dust storms, rogue machines, trackers, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of adventure. Jace smiled. We've had plenty of that. The bride laughed softly. I didn't expect to enjoy this, but I do. Then let's make the most of it, because life here isn't quiet, and it's never simple. But it can be worth it. Jace felt a sense of peace. For all the uncertainty, for all the unexpected turns, he was ready. Together they could face whatever the frontier threw at them. And somehow he knew that Red Mesa, with its harsh winds, red dust, and twin suns, had become a place of hope, learning, and friendship. As the night settled over the desert, Jace realized one thing. Sometimes the people you least expect become the ones who change your life the most. And as the stars twinkled overhead, he felt certain that this adventure, strange, unpredictable, and full of surprises, was just beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Mesa, casting a warm golden glow across the dusty plains. The ranch was quiet for the first time in days, the robotic cattle grazing calmly, and the solar panels humming with energy. Jace Calhoun stood on the porch looking at the horizon. For once he felt a strange mix of calm and anticipation. Vera Kincaid was inspecting a wind collector she had built to supplement the solar array. The bride, the young woman who had arrived from Earth, was nearby, studying the irrigation system with careful attention. The three of them moved through the ranch with purpose, each fully aware of the skills and knowledge the others brought. Despite the calm, Jace's thoughts kept returning to the future. The real bride had arrived days ago, but her presence hadn't caused the conflict he had feared. Instead, she had adapted, learning quickly and working alongside Vera. Vera, for her part, had maintained her clever, confident demeanor, teaching and guiding without arrogance or dominance. And somehow, amidst all this, Jace had begun to understand what the frontier really meant: collaboration, trust, and growth. As the sun climbed higher, a small comm device beeped urgently. Vera checked it and frowned. "Looks like someone is tracking me again," she said, her voice calm but serious. "They're nearby, but they won't find the ranch if we handle this right." Jace nodded. "What's the plan?" Vera smiled, a spark of mischief in her eyes. "We're going to confuse them. No one gets hurt. We use the land, the machines, and a little bit of clever thinking. You'll see." The three of them quickly moved into action. Vera directed Jace and the bride to set up decoy signals with the drones, positioning them in different areas around the ranch. She adjusted circuits on the solar panels to scramble tracking devices while the bride helped by monitoring the energy flow. Jace's knowledge of the land proved invaluable. He guided the drones through the desert to create the perfect illusion of activity. By mid-morning, the ranch appeared abandoned to anyone tracking Vera. The real action was happening silently behind the scenes, with all three working together in perfect coordination. The trackers approached, following the false signals, completely unaware that the ranch itself was alive with clever maneuvers. Hours passed. Finally, Vera checked the comm device and nodded. "They're gone." Confused and frustrated, but unharmed. "Red Mesa keeps its peace today." Jace let out a long breath. "I can't believe that worked." "It's all about planning and teamwork, and knowing the land better than anyone else." The bride looked at Vera with admiration. "You really are amazing. I didn't expect to meet someone like you. I've done what I had to do to survive, but Red Mesa, it's taught me a lot. And I've learned that sometimes you don't have to fight to win. You just have to think." Jace watched the exchange with a quiet sense of relief. The crisis was over. The ranch was safe. And for the first time he realized something profound. The people he least expected to rely on, an outlaw and a bride, had become his greatest allies. Over the next few days, life on the ranch settled into a rhythm. The robotic cattle moved smoothly, the irrigation systems ran without interruption, and the wind collector provided extra energy during dust storms. The real bride and Vera worked together, learning from each other and sharing ideas. Jace, too, contributed, guiding them with his knowledge of the land and machines. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Jace found himself sitting on the porch with Vera. The desert was quiet, only the soft hum of the solar panels and the occasional distant call of a mechanical bird breaking the silence. "You've changed this place," Jace said quietly, watching her adjust a loose braid. "I don't know how I managed before you arrived. It was gentle, thoughtful. You managed fine before I came. I just helped a little, added some tricks and ideas." Jace shook his head. "You did more than that. You taught me to see the possibilities, to think beyond surviving, to make life better." Vera looked at him, her eyes reflecting the silver light of the moons. "Red Mesa has a way of teaching everyone in its own way," she said softly. The bride joined them, carrying a cup of water. She sat quietly, watching the moons. "I never expected to feel comfortable here," she admitted, "but I do. You both have made this place feel like home." Jace smiled, realizing that he didn't feel torn or uncertain anymore. The initial anxiety about the bride's arrival had faded. Instead, he felt a sense of unity. Three people, each bringing their own strengths, forming a partnership stronger than anything he had imagined. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch thrived. Vera's clever ideas and technical knowledge continued to improve life on Red Mesa, while the bride's curiosity and willingness to learn allowed her to contribute meaningfully. Jace found himself teaching both of them in ways he had never thought he would: engineering techniques, land management, and the subtleties of the desert's unpredictable weather. One afternoon, a neighbor from a nearby settlement came by, curious about the improvements at Jace's ranch. They had heard rumors of the outlaw woman living with a rancher and a bride, and they wanted to see for themselves. Vera greeted them with her usual confident charm, while the bride explained the irrigation system's upgrades. Jace quietly showed the neighbor the solar panel and wind collector systems. By the time the visitor left, they were impressed, nodding in admiration. "Never thought I'd see an outlaw and a bride running a ranch together," the neighbor said with a laugh. "Red Mesa keeps surprising me." Jace smiled quietly, watching Vera and the bride move around the ranch with ease. He realized that life on Red Mesa was full of surprises, and maybe that was the beauty of it. As the sun began to set, painting the desert in shades of gold and red, Vera turned to Jace. "You know," she said, "I could leave. I have places to go, things to do." But she paused, looking out at the horizon. "I think I want to stay." Jace's heart raced. "You don't have to ask. I want you to stay." The bride smiled softly. "I think we're all learning that Red Mesa isn't just a place to survive," she said. "It's a place to build, to grow, and maybe to find friendship." Vera laughed softly, a sound of relief and happiness. "Exactly. And maybe even a little adventure." The three of them stood together, watching the twin moons rise over the mesas. For the first time, Jace felt certain that the ranch wasn't just a place to work. It was a place to live, to learn, and to share life with people who mattered. Life on Red Mesa would never be quiet, and it would never be simple. Dust storms would come, mechanical failures would occur, and challenges would arise. But now, Jace knew they could face anything together. Vera, the outlaw, had found a home. The bride, once uncertain and nervous, had discovered her strength. And Jace, the lone rancher, had realized that life was richer when shared with others. As the desert darkened and the stars appeared in the sky, Jace felt a deep sense of peace. The frontier had brought challenges, surprises, and unexpected companions. And in that vast, rugged land, he had found not just survival but hope, friendship, and the promise of new adventures. For Red Mesa was more than a desert. It was a home! A new frontier. And with Vera and the bride by his side, Jace knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. The twin moons shone down, silver and calm, illuminating the ranch, the robotic cattle, and the three figures standing together on the porch. And as the wind whispered across the mesas, carrying the scent of dust and metal, it seemed to tell a simple truth. Life on the frontier was never easy, but with trust, teamwork, and courage, it could be extraordinary. And so the sun set on Red Mesa, closing one chapter and leaving the horizon wide open for all the adventures yet to come.